Spell Victor, okay. Mrs. Jinx?
Ult sắp qua cái kia để đổi bài.
Which one?
Ult sắp qua cái pro.
Hello, hello, and welcome back to the welcome more like to the Spellbound local stream for Riftbound. I'm Billy, and I will be your commentator for today. So it looks like in our first match of round one, we have Jinx against what seems to be Spell Victor. The Jinx player has won the dice roll, deciding to go first, and on the first turn, he's decided to play out a Seal of Discord and a Merchant. Passing to Victor. Victor going second. Drawing, but just making a recruit token and passing back to Jinx. Jinx now on 3 runes. Both players with their chosen battlefield. Jinx on the Zon Warrens, allowing you to discard 1, draw 1. Similar effect to the Merchant's move. And Victor on Veiled Temple, which allows him to, on Conquer, I believe, ready an equipment and unattach it. So now, Jinx player has decided to play an Ezreal, discard 1, draw 2, and now Merchant moves in. Merchant moves happen first, discard, draw, but Victor responds with a Blood Money to KO the Merchant, not enabling the capture point, and then the Jinx player has proceeded to pass the turn from there with no other units other than the Ezreal, which just rested. Victor player now with 5 runes up decides to move, untapping all his cards first. Move the recruit in, passing priority to Jinx. Jinx with no response. Seems to be a little technical difficulty on the point. And Hung, it should be on 1 point, right? But he's not on 1 point here. You trash. So the Victor player should be on 1 point right now. Oh, apologies, there were a few bits of action missed, but here, Victor salvages the seal from Jinx. Recycling runes. Now back down to 3, has just enough for 1 to make his token for the turn. And then passing to the Jinx player, who now untaps with 4, draws a card for the turn, paying 1 to stack deck, looking at the top 3 cards of his deck. Here we see what seems like to be Scrap Heap, Mega Death Rocket, as well as another card. Oh, card was Nocturne, and which was revealed, and Jinx player recycles 1 to play out the Nocturne, getting rather aggressive. Four runes up for the Jinx player still for this turn. There looks like 2 Scrap Heap in hand. He plays 1 for the draw. Draws into what looks like to be a Battering Ram. The Jinx player is still thinking through what to do with his 2 remaining active runes for the turn. Tapping 2 again to play out a Noxus Hopeful, I believe. Sorry, apologies. A Battering Ram. Yes, the Battering Ram here only costs 2 as he's played a stack deck, a Nocturne, and a Scrap Heap, so reducing its cost by 3, costing only 2. So now the Jinx player has built quite the board state at 5 runes with a 4 Might Nocturne and a 5 Might Battering Ram. Victor player plays out a Jace and has hit the Jace into Vanguard Armory combo. Jace allows you to kill a gear and then playing out the Vanguard Armory. Vanguard Armory here is a gear that for every turn you can tap it to create 3 recruit tokens, a very, very powerful combo, which this player has been fortunate enough to hit. And as you can see, the Victor player really starting to flood his board with these 1/1 recruit tokens. The recruit token there has also moved in, scoring 1 point. Victor here recycling 1 as well to hide a card on that battlefield with 1 up and decides to pass the turn to the Jinx player. Jinx now untapping with 4, channeling 2 extra runes and drawing for the turn. Draws what looks to be a Fizz. But the only spell that he would have access to from the Fizz is this stacked deck. Thinking through its turn. Now facing down a lot of tokens. Hello, welcome back. Now you can see the scores displayed on the screen. Viktor player on 2 points and the Jinx player on 1 point. So moving back to the action, the Jinx player has now used Fight or Flight on the recruit token on the battlefield. Viktor potentially pressuring out the hidden card. Viktor player plays the hidden card that he hid last turn, a Wages of Pain, killing his own recruit, which would have been gusted to generate a tapped gold. Now the Jinx player playing out a called shot, repeat, recycling one rune and one rune only due to the Ezreal still being on board. Let's grab 2 cards. Jinx player now moving into the battlefield.
No, this is meta.
Sorry, yes. Jinx player now recycling 1 Discord rune to play a Rasa onto that battlefield. Tapping the additional extra rune. Taking through his turn. To play another battering ram. Creating quite the formidable board. Both battlefields now, Jinx is holding with a total of 10 might each. Can Viktor get over this with his large army of tokens and the Jason board, as well as the array of spells he may have access to in hand? So for those who do not know, we at Spellbound are running an Arcane themed league where if you play a champion or a leader that was a character in Arcane, so in this case, as of current in Spirit Forge for Riftbound, there's only, well, Jinx and Viktor as you see here. There's a small point multiplier. Done. Back to the action. Imperial Decree was cast. Viktor running in all his tokens. They deal 1 damage, but due to Imperial Decree, any unit that takes damage this turn will be killed. So the 1/1s have taken out the 2 battering rams and the Rasa, as well as the Nocturne, clearing the battlefield for the Viktor player. He still has 2 recruits left, active, being able to go into battlefield, as well as the Jace, so he should be able to reclaim these 2 battlefields, moving up to 4 points from the double conquer. He's tapped the Vanguard Army, conquering, and therefore enabling him to untap the Vanguard Army, tapping it again, generating 6 recruits this turn. Quite the powerful swing for the Viktor. Viktor now deciding whether he wants to move the Jace for the last remaining recruit into Zone Warrens. Viktor player moves the Jace in, Warren captures, Zone Warren triggers, discarding the Stupefied, drawing a card, proceeds to recycle a rune to hide a card at the Veiled Temple, I believe is battlefield, and proceeds to indicate a pass back to Jinx. Jinx now with quite the formidable board last turn, which was cleared by Imperial Decree, perhaps potentially overcommitting on holding these battlefields, and as a result, his board was essentially wiped by 4 1/1 recruit tokens. Now has to find a way to reclaim control of these battlefields, with the Viktor player having quite the number of recruits still behind in his base. Jinx player now with 5 runes. Nicholas assessing his hand, trying to figure out what he could do with the Ezreal, 5 runes and the cards in his hand, but looks like he's facing quite the challenge, with Vanguard Armory generating essentially 3 might of 1/1 recruits every turn, as well as the Viktor champion effect as well. He's able to generate 4 recruits for essentially 1 rune per turn. Quite the value engine. Yeah, as the players are thinking through their turn, would like to say hi, welcome to all of you to the stream. We at Spellbound host locals every Wednesday and Sunday. And as I previously said, currently we are running an Arcane themed league. So if you do come by, if you come nearby, drop by, say hi to us, and try to hit up the locals if you can. You know, the winner of the league will be given an Arcane box set. So lots to play for at our local league. And yeah, if you're interested, please do come down. We'd love to see you. Azrael here, being played by the Jinx player, pitching a merchant, drawing 2. So you can see a cold shot and a falling star coming down. Very powerful cards. But in this case, the falling star does not look very appealing to cast against simple 1/1 might units, and the cold shot without a seal will still cause the Jinx player to recycle a rune. So definitely not ideal. Jinx player proceeds to just pass the turn to Viktor. Viktor now holds up to 6 points, drawing a card with what seems like to be 6 or 8 recruits in base right now. 5 runes up, 2 cards in hand. Could potentially retreat to conserve his units, but decides to pay 4 first, recycling 1 blue to play a rocket, dealing 4 damage to unit in base, targeting the Ezreal that is active, tapping the Vanguard Army, playing out 3 more recruit tokens, just trying to generate as much might and as many units as possible at the back to perhaps try to reconquer a battlefield if it is taken. Hides another card on the other battlefield underneath the Jays. Tapping 1, playing out a recruit. Now with no cards in hand, indicates a pass to the Jinx player. Jinx now has to take both battlefields and able to hold it to stay in the game. The sand containing a fizz, piercing light, bushwhack, falling star, and 2 cold shots. So there is definitely a chance that he'll be able to dig through his deck and find whatever he's looking for, but will it be enough with the army that Viktor has now in his base? Plus 2 units still holding and 2 spells hidden in both the battlefields. Jinx players now pays 4, recycling 2 to piercing light, assuming a repeat. Targeting players now figuring out the targets for this piercing light. In response, the Viktor player will hidden blade his own recruit, which was targeted, killing it to then draw 2 cards. And also Wages of Pain to generate a gold token before both his units go down, so generating some value before these units go down. Jinx player now with 2 rune up and only a singular unit left. Cold shots. Recycling 1 due to Ezreal. Keeping a hidden card and sending the rebuke to the bottom. Now next selection is Last Rites and a unknown card. Looks to be deliberating on the decision. And it was a Nocturne found from the Cold Shot, so reveals it, recycling a rune, and is able to get it in play. Exhausted, Ezreal moves into the battlefield, conquering. He recycles 1 to play the seal, now with 2 cards. With 2 runes floating. He taps the seal to play a Rasa. So Rasa only costing 1 purple power due to Nicholas having more than 10 cards in trash. He then hides a card underneath the battlefield with the Rasa and Ezreal, looking to try his best to hold it. Now going straight down to 0 runes and passing the turn. Nicholas, you go to 3 points, right? You go to 3 points, right? So Nicholas now on 3 points, Carlo on 6. All Carlo will need to do is to conquer both battlefields or look to push his recruits into a singular battlefield, conquering to 7, and then trying to hold it for the turn. Carlo assessing his hands, his board state, his opponent's board state, see what are the viable options and what would look like the best decision, the best play for him to make here, whether it to be conquering both battlefields or try to conquer one and hold it for the turn. First of all, though, business as usual, tapping the Vanguard army to generate 3 recruits. He proceeds to send 1 in, conquering, untapping the Vanguard army, tapping it again, generating another 3 recruits. Endless recruits spawning out of Carlo's base, but it seems like he's ready for this, and he also has an infinite number of tokens. He then chooses to cast Bellows Breath repeated, and Nicholas decides for the game 1 scoop. So Carlo now is 1-0 up into what looks like to be a Miracle Jinx variant with Vanguard Armory control Viktor. Players now setting back up, shuffling up, moving to game 2. Nicholas once again with the turn selection, see what his sideboard could bring and what changes, what adaptations he can bring to this match. Perhaps the turning point of last game was when Nicholas decided to stack both his battlefields with 2 quite powerful units on each of them, but was completely blown out by the Imperial Decree from Kaya. Each one of these 1/1 recruits, which he essentially generated for almost free with the Vanguard Army, and Viktor took out a 4, 2, 5, and a 6 might unit, enabling Carlo to completely overwhelm the board. Nicholas with nothing for the counterattack, and the game probably ended from there. But both players looks like they are sideboarding, so perhaps Nicholas will have a better answer into what seemed like to be a very dominant display by Carlo. but we will have to wait and see. Both players seem like they were sticking with their chosen champion. Jinx, you may see sometimes run the red Jinx as well, but looks like Carlos on the purple variant, which doesn't surprise me too much based on the fact that he's playing some Miracle Jinx, as you are able to get the purple seals to get her out without having to recycle too much. And and Nicholas here looking like opening with the Minefield Battlefield. So on Conquer, you discard 2 cards from the top of your deck. This will enable him to hit cards perhaps like Scrap Heap, cycle through his deck faster for spells for Fizz, and be able to get his Rasa online earlier. Carlo now shuffling up as well. Looks like also sideboarding a little bit. Perhaps trying to figure out what Nicholas would have sided in to try to win this matchup based on his colors and respond appropriately from there. Looks like they're both ready to get into it quite early. And let's look to kickstart game 2 of round 1. Carlo chosen to play what seems like Ravenbloom's Observatory. So on the defense, he's able to reel the top card of his deck, and if it's a spell, add it to his hand. But the effect goes both ways. But what Carlo perhaps is trying to do is to always be able to conquer and hold the battlefield defending it with his spells. And whenever Nicholas wants to attempt to attack the battlefield, Carlo most likely will reveal a spell, as the spell density of that deck is quite high, and essentially gain what is a +1 into hand, being able to fuel himself to continuously figure out ways to remove and deal with Nicholas's board. As Miracle Jinx goes, the deck list, I'm assuming, is very similar to that of Miracle Draven, where you're able to play a little bit slow-ish early, setting up Ezreal, seals, and etc., filling up your trash. But when it is that turn where you're able to drop multiple Rasas and battering rams, you can go off and build a massive board that is on Carlo to be able to somehow get over and defend himself, insulate himself from that turn. Turn 1, Nicholas playing out a merchant, passing. Carlo going second on his first turn as well. No 2/3 drops as is standard with Viktor. And playing out the recruit from his leader effect. Here, Nicholas, merchant, moving into the minefield, merchant move effect, discarding a scrap heap, drawing 2. But before it is able to conquer the minefield and milling 2 more cards from Nicholas's deck, Carlo responds with a blood money, KOing the merchant and generating a gold for himself. Good way to generate resources and be able to prevent your opponents from gaining points on their turn. Nicholas then plays a stack deck and then plays a second stack deck, still searching through his deck. We see a battering ram, but Nicholas has only played 2 cards this turn, which means that it now costs 3. But with only 2 runes up, this might not be an option for him. Taking what seems to not have been the battering ram, but I'm not quite sure what he took, but decides to pass with 2 runes open. Now Carlo will be opened to get the first point. His recruit moving into the observatory, scoring a point, and now parking himself there just where Carlo wants it. As Nicholas, if he wants to retake, will have to take the chances to, well, most likely give Carlo a card from the defense trigger of this recruit on this battlefield. Carlo tapping 1 and his leader, his champion, to generate a 1/1 token, and using the remaining runes he has, plays out the chosen champion, the blue Viktor, which is when he casts a card or plays a card or a spell perhaps from on the opponent's turn, he generates a recruit token in your base. Carlo then proceeds to recycle 1 rune to hide a card onto the observatory and then passes back to Nicholas. Nicholas here, moving to a quite healthy number of runes, recycling 1 to play a seal, floating. That mana, use the mana to pay for cold shot, only paying for the seal, so it does not look to be repeated. So just look at the top 2 cards of his deck, selecting 1. Taps the floating mana. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 runes. Perhaps wanting to look to play the Jinx, but thinks better of it. Tapping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Recycling a purple, and does indeed choose to play out the purple Jinx as shown on screen. Quite a powerful unit. And Carlo on his turn, untapping, drawing, moving to 2 points. Recruit still holding strong on that battlefield. Tapping 3. Pickpockets the seal from Nicholas. So Pickpocket is a card that has seen a lot of play recently in blue decks for its ability to destroy gears that cost 1 or less, I believe, which is in most purple decks a seal. Destroying this seal also generates a gold, and it's definitely a way to stop your opponent to be able to get this kind of infinite free recycle value. And as there's only 3 seals on the deck, this can lead to purple decks running quite low on runes every turn if they're unable to keep finding these seals or a way to generate gold. And Pickpocket also is a 3 unit, so definitely not a stat line that can be just simply scoffed at. Carlo here, pushing his recruit into the minefield, milling top 2 after the Conqueror, going to 3 points, and playing another recruit from the Viktor leader effect onto his base, leaving 2 runes up, passing the turn. Nicholas pushing the Jinx into the minefield. Carlo does not contest, simply indicating that the recruit dies. Nicholas on the board for the first time this game with 1, milling the top 2 cards of his deck. Still a very large number of runes up. We'll see what he's able to muster with what seems to be 6 runes. Nicholas recycling 1 rune, floating it. Casting another cold shot, no seal. Seal was pickpocketed from last turn, so he's unable to use that to essentially repeat this cold shot for an extra card, as he believes he would go down too low on runes if he were to just recycle 2 here. Does select the Seal of Discord. Nicholas now recycling the second rune to play out the seal he just found from the cold shot, tapping 1 and the seal to play out a Rasa, as he has 9 cards in trash. Recycling that rune as he has used it. So now with 1 floating, 3 active, all reds, which might hinder him from being able to play specific cards like additional Rasas. He then decides to tap 1 and the floating rune to play a scrap heap, drawing 1, cycling deeper through his cards. Now passing the turn, stacking onto 1 battlefield. In game 1, he was heavily punished for this, with 3 recruits simply pushing in and killing the 1x1 with Imperial Decree. And once again, Carlo has the Decree. So these smaller might units will punish Nicholas heavily. But no, he actually has the combo for Order and Mind decks, which is Decree into Bellows Breath. Bellows Breath usually deals only 1 damage to 3 units at a single location. But with the Imperial Decree, he pings 1/1/1. And since all of them have taken damage this turn, they have all been wiped. Nicholas again being heavily punished for stacking all his units and his mites onto 1 battlefield. Carlo with the insane board wipe from just 2 cards. Okay, Carlo playing out a Forge, generating a token, tapping itself, forcing Nicholas to forcing a 2 recycle to the bottom of Nicholas's deck. One of them in Cold Shot Fizz. Cold Shot Fizz and Stack deck after killing off the Forge. This is a tech that is seen in yellow decks to playing into purple, as you are able to hinder how many cards they have in the bin, the trash, in order to slow down their Rasa developments or the choices they are able to have from Fizz Trickster, which plays a card from trash. And also against purple, there is the Shovel Last Rites, which is able to play a unit from your trash, but if there are no units there because they're all recycled, there's nothing that the Hold or Conquer effect is able to do. So Carlo here seeming like he's extremely prepared into these purple decks, having the answers to almost everything that Nicholas has done this turn so far. Can Nicholas pull the comeback being down 1-5? Nicholas here playing Ezreal, assuming he's looking for this the whole time. Discard 1, draw 2, and proceeds to Piercing Light both battlefields. But Carlo, already hiding a Hidden Blade, just triggers it at reaction speed, able to kill his own recruit before it dies, and drawing 2 cards from that. Carlo now untapping with 2 recruits, a Pickpocket, and the Viktor in space, a plethora of runes and cards alike. Can simply push his recruits in to both battlefields to go to 7. Decides to first, let's take care of business. Rocket killing the Ezreal, tapping 4, recycling 1 blue, dealing 4 damage to a unit in base. He proceeds to push in, going to 6, push in, going to 7. Minefield triggers, discarding the top 2 cards of his deck. Nicholas with now no more units in the base, looking like very hopeless this game, as he is once again punished by the Imperial Decree. Carlo leaving 3 runes up, decides to just simply pass the turn, asking Nicholas, does he have any answers to this? Nicholas able to find another Ezreal, tapping 3, drawing 2, but discarding a scrap heap, so draws an additional card. So discard 1, Ezreal on play, discard 1, draw 3 cards. Carlo only needs to hold on either of these battlefields in order to close out the game. Nicholas playing out Fizz for Piercing Light. Repeat. Going down 2 extra runes, but able to clear both battlefields on this turn. So just being able to hold on, stopping Carlo from pushing to the win. But he decides to just concede, as Carlo will be able to take both battlefields, the first one pushing him to 8, but as you cannot double conquer to get the 8 points, he simply draws. But Nicholas has no way to stop the second conquer for the turn, pushing to 8. So our first match of the locals between what seems to be Miracle Jinx and Spell Control Viktor. Carlo on Viktor takes it 2-0 in a very dominant performance against Nicholas. Both players playing Arcane themed decks, looking to try and score some points in our Arcane League. And yeah, once again, if you did not hear it, us at Spellbound are currently running a small league event spanning a couple weeks where there is an Arcane box set up for grabs based on your performance at locals. Of course, winning will score and net you more points, but in this case, it is Arcane themed, winning with an Arcane character. So currently in Riftbound, only Viktor and Jinx will net you bonus points. So Carlo here, as you can see, showing Nicholas the Forge. Nicholas shaking his head. Matchup seems quite difficult, but Nicholas now contemplating, could he have played differently, not overcommitting? But there is that. Nicholas now will definitely know to look out for the Imperial Decree next time against Viktor, if he ever faces one. Yeah, both players packing up, just chatting about the game. And that will be our first game of locals. So yeah, happy to see you all here watching. Thank you very much for tuning into the stream. Do leave us, follow us on socials, leave us a like, subscribe. We don't only just stream Riftbound, but we also do stream One Piece locals every Monday and Friday, and we will look to stream other games as well in the future. And often you can, if you follow us, you can see that we will be online streaming larger events for other games, such as perhaps Flesh and Blood or Star Wars Unlimited. And yeah, hopefully we will see some of you guys down at the locals and catch you there. So now we'll move to an intermission, waiting for the round to finish. We still have quite a good amount of time. And we'll see you back for round 2 of the Spellbound Locals Arcane League. Hello and welcome back to round 2 of the Spellbound local stream. So, at 1-0 on the left, we have GNTCG on Kaisa, and on the right we have Hardig Mandavia on Irelia. So a matchup that would have been seen a lot, which usually is quite a difficult matchup for Kaisa. But let's see what GNCCG can do. Aurelia? So the game has started, and we can make the assumption that the Aurelia won dice and chosen to go first. The two battlefields, Kaisa has chosen a Void Gate, which deals one more any units on this battlefield takes one more damage, or the spells deal one more damage. And Aurelia has chosen Dreaming Tree. So Hardig on 1 has chosen to pass. Zhang, GNCCG on his turn 1 on 3 runes has played a Lecturing Yordle, drawing 1. Hardig on 4 runes has played a Sneaky Deckhand onto the Dreaming Tree, which has scored him a point. So GNTCG on 5 has chosen to Void Seeker, removing the Sneaky Deckhand, drawing 1 card, not having to pay the ability, the recycle cost due to Kaisa, moving the Lecturing Yordle into Dreaming Tree, scoring 1 point himself, and plays a Stupefy on his own Yordle, drawing 1, but because it's the first spell that targets a unit on his unit on the Dreaming Tree, has drawn a second card from Stupefy. GNCCG leaving 1 rune up, passing back to Hardik. Hardik here, tapping 4 to play a Stellarcorn Hoarder. Stellarcorn Hoarder, sorry. Passing the turn, GNCCG now untaps, scoring, holding on the Dreaming Tree to his second point. Seeing what his options are. Seven runes up. Ahead on board currently, but the Herder could come in to take back the Dreaming Tree, as it does have 1 more might than the Yordle. GNTCG really deliberating, taking his time. GNTCG decides to play a Falling Star, targeting the Herder twice, trying to remove Aurelia's only threat on board. The Herder goes down. Kaisa, very powerful with using these spells to have high recycle costs, but because her legend naturally allows you to basically have a free seal every turn, is able to still maintain rune economy while doing so. He then decides to play out a Kaisa from his champion zone, non-accelerated, pulling back the Yordle, keeping both of them safe to 2 points, and Hardy now back onto his turn. Still with no unit developed after Kaisa cleared the Herder, has to try and look and re-establish something on board for Irelia as a deck to play around with all his potential gears and buff spells in hand. Looks like Hardik has finally chosen to play out the chosen champion, Irelia Fervent. And simply passing. Keeping up runes in order to be able to protect this Irelia. GNTCG now, untapping with 8 runes. Thinking whether he should move in. He then pushes the Kaisa into the Void Gate. No response from Hardik. Kaisa on Conquer draws, scores into 3 points. Lecturing Yordle pushes into the Dreaming Tree, scoring the 4th point. GNCG now with a commanding point lead. GNCG playing Garbage Grabber, card that from origins that you may not have seen before. Card reads when he recycles 2 cards from his trash, he's able to draw a card. He then plays out a Watchful Sentry at the back, leaving a few runes up, and decides to pass the turn. Leaving the Kaisa open onto the Void Gate could signal a potential retreat. And he might be willing to sacrifice the Yordle wherever the Aurelia pushes. Hardik plays out a Zonya's Hourglass, keeping the Aurelia safe from potential spells, and taps a further 3 for Boots of Swiftness. Swifties giving Aurelia ganking when attached. He then recycles 1 to attach the boot to the Aurelia, giving it 2 extra might, with an additional +1 as it has been targeted this turn. Aurelia then pushes into the Void Gate with a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 might onto the Kaisa's 4. GNCGG decides to let the Kaisa go. Hardik scoring his second point after the first point from the deckhand. Hardik currently has still a large amount of runes up, so could choose to hold all of these up for potential counterspells for the play for counterplay against GNCGG, and he decides to spend 1 and recycle 1, charming the Yordle over to the Void Gate, killing it to prevent GNCGG from being able to score that hold point. Going to 5, he then will hide a card at the Void Gate. With 4 rune up, proceeds to signal passing the turn to GNCCG. GNTCG now ahead on points, pushing the Watchful Sentry into the Dreaming Tree, scoring. Decides to play out a Ferris Forerunner, a new card in Spirit Force, a 6 cost 1 red recycle 6 might unit that when killed will spawn 2 3/3 mech tokens in your base. So essentially 6 recycle 1 for a total of 12 might, a very, very powerful inclusion in almost every red deck. And he decides to play Get Excited. So the spell will be not so fasted, but what the spell reads is that if it were to resolve, he would be able to discard any card from hand, and it will deal the damage based on the cost of the card. So if you were to be able to discard something like a Time Warp, it will deal 10 damage to Aurelia. So Hardik heads up, chooses to not so fast the spell before it is able to resolve and perhaps kills Aurelia. GNCCG then uses Garbage Grabber, recycling 3 cards, drawing 1, ending with a healthy grip of card in his hand, holding on 1 battlefield and passing the turn. Now, Hardik untapping his Aurelia. Aurelia gains +1 whenever she's ready, so she's a 5 might unit plus the Swifties, which is another 2 might, pushing her to 5. Hardik then plays a Draven, rested in base at 3 points. Draven, whenever winning combat, you will score an extra point, so Hardik could potentially use this as a catch-up mechanic, but it is a double-sided sword, double-edged blade, where if you lose a combat on the Draven, however, your opponent scores a point. So players must be extremely careful in how they utilize this Draven. So the turn is passed. GNCCG holding with the Watchful Sentry to 6. Hardik with 2 runes up. 1 card hidden on the Void Gate. Aurelia loses the when active, when restanded might. So going down to now just 6 with 4 plus 2 from the Swifties. GNCCG now thinking what are his best options in order to deal with Aurelia and this Draven at the back. Mind you, Hardik does have a hidden card on the Void Gate and a GA, so could be quite tricky. As if there's a spells that target battlefield specifically, there could be a maybe Ride the Wind, maybe Fight or Flight to remove this area, remove the Aurelia from the Void Gate, causing spells to deal less damage. And the GA will, well, if GNCGG manages to get through the GA. GNCGG, however, chooses to play a Singularity, apologies, for 6, targeting both Aurelia and Draven. Hardik responds with a Discipline on the Aurelia, drawing 1, keeping it out of range of the Singularity, and the Draven is recalled exhausted. Well, it was already in the base, so the GA gets taken out. No combat has occurred yet, so Aurelia still has 6 damage on her. If GNCCG were to decide to move in with the first Forerunner. But as we can see, there is a Falling Star in GNCCG's hand. He would be committing a lot of resources here, going down 3 runes in order to cast this Falling Star. So he decides to first push in with the first Forerunner to see what the hidden card are. Hardik triggers the first Forerunner. Push with the Fight or Flight. Pushing back the first Forerunner, but then GNCCG uses a Void Seeker, recycling 2 due to Aurelia's Deflect to be able to get rid of it. And passing the turn, GNCCG committed a lot last turn in order to clear this Aurelia, but he is able to get through it as well as over the GA, leaving Hardik with just this Draven on board. Very rare to see Kaisa down this low on runes, but it was perhaps worth it for him to be able to clear Aurelia plus GA. So Hardik pushes this Draven onto the Void Gate, going to 4 points. Targeting the Draven and unexhausting it, attaching it with the Swifties. Ganking it over to the Dreaming Tree, moving to 5. Tapping 2 to play a Treasure Hunter in base. Tapping another 2 to play another Treasure Hunter in base. And then recycling a card to recycling a rune, sorry, to hide a card at the Dreaming Tree, passing the turn. So this Draven here on the Dreaming Tree has 6 might with the Swifties, is 8 might, so above the Foreigner. Has a hidden card at the battlefield as well as 3 runes. So GNCCG pushing units into the Void Gate, now fully stacking it going to 7 and looking to play into the holding plan, where he will try his best to hold his battlefield for the next turn, stopping Hardik from being able to go over onto the Void Gate and successfully clear all those units. Now Hardik facing down 13 might on the Void Gate, Draven currently only on 8 with a singular card in hand. Treasure Hunter looks like it can clear. No, pushing the Treasure Hunter onto the Dreaming Tree. And activating the Fight or Flight in order to gain an additional card. He then draws a GA from the Dreaming Tree trigger of this Fight or Flight. GA then is attached to Draven. Draven now being pushed up to 10 might. So Hardik now trying to figure out with this last card what he can do. So Treasure Hunter moving in, going to generate gold. Hardik moving in with the Draven and the remaining Treasure Hunter to Defiant Dance. So giving the Draven a +2 and giving the Forerunner -2. So So a trade happens. But with the GA attached, the Draven is then recalled to the base exhausted. While it does survive a battlefield, GNCG does end up with 4 mechs, 3/3, which can both just conquer the 2 battlefields. And he can push to 8 points on the next turn, as Hardik has no other counterplay, no other cards, no other units can stand to prevent the conquer. And with that, GNCCG on Kaisa takes game 1. Both players now going to their sideboard, figuring out what cards they can put in for this matchup. This usually is quite a difficult matchup for Kaisa, as she has many spells that require targeting, and as such has to pay deflect and a lot more runes that she usually would have to cast her spells. And Aurelia itself as a deck does run a lot of counter spells and combat tricks where she is able to buffer units out of range of Kaisa spells. But with some good play, GNCG was able to get there after game 1. But let's see what the players will be bringing in for game 2 for this matchup. GNCG siding already ready with his game 2 battlefield. With what looks like GNCG siding in what looks like to be Thermos Beam and Unchecked Power. Unchecked Power specifically is very potent into Aurelia, as it does not target units specifically. It's a spell that just deals damage to units at battlefield. As such, Kaisa does not have to pay deflect cost into it. And Thermos Beam is a card that is able to remove all gears. Where, as you can see in game 1, Aurelia Hardik runs gears such as GA, Swifties, and Zonya, so that is another card that may be able to give GNCG an advantage in this matchup. Game 2, GNTCG on Kai'Sa has picked what seemed to be Vilema's Lair. What's the Aurelia battlefield? What's the Aurelia battlefield? I don't know that card. Yeah. Huh? Rock hold path? Rockfall path. What does it do? Oh. Thank you. And after a quick ask from me, the battlefield that Aurelia has chosen is Rockfall Path, which is not very commonly seen in many decks, but what it reads, units cannot be played directly on this battlefield. Quite an interesting choice. As we did see that Hardik does run a sneaky deckhand, so the sneaky deckhand will not be able to be played there. So battlefields that kind of disrupt movement both ways from both players. GNCCG has decided to mulligan one card. Hardik, looking like he's deliberating, still has decided to go second. And not mulligan at all. Turn 1. GNCCG plays a Watchful Sentry for 2. Hardik on 3 finds the sneaky deckhand, cannot play it into the Rockfall Path, however, and has to play it into the Valmal's Lair, scoring his first point. But I don't believe he's that bothered about it, as it has gained him a point and is larger than the Watchful Sentry. But GNTCG on 4 is able to Void Seeker it, drawing a card, clearing for a Sentry, a cost of 0 card, and move his own Watchful Sentry into the Valmal's Lair, scoring a point. So Hardik now on 5. Shaking his head, looking as if he does not have any play he's entirely happy with. On 5, you can certainly bring out the Aurelia Fervent, but that then opens up Aurelia to be cleared by Kai'Sa's spell. So Hardik wisely choosing to not opt into that and instead playing 2 GAs. Instead, GNCCG on his 6th rune turn plays out Kai'Sa non-accelerated, and another Watchful Sentry trying to generate resources from its Death Knell ability. The Watchful Sentry from Valmal's Lair cannot retreat, so it is stranded there, but GNCCG would seem to not be that bothered by it, as Hardik does not currently have a unit on the battlefield, or even if he does, if Death Knell is able to be activated, I'm sure GNCCG would not be too unhappy either. Hardik on 5, playing out his chosen champion, Aurelia Fervent, recycling 1 and a second one to attach the GA to Aurelia and get it active, moving into the Rockfall Path, scoring his second point. And indicating a pass. GNCCG now holding up to 3. Assessing his hand. Being able to out this Aurelia seems like an extremely, extremely difficult task here, as it does have a GA attached, as well as Hardik having many, many spells. GNCCG plays the Rocket Repeat, targeting both GAs, and it looks like they get taken out. Both GAs down with one card from GNTCG. Looks like Hardik not having any spells in order to deal with the Rocket. Aurelia lives, but she is now without any support on field. Great value play from GNTCG, avoiding having to deal with this Aurelia multiple times based off the two GAs, and Hardik surely is feeling the pressure now. Aurelia is still alive, but not feeling nearly as safe as before. Retreats from Ruffle Path after playing a Stellacorn, leaving 3 up. And passing the turn. Watchful Sentry has been holding on this Vamos Lair since the beginning of the game, scoring 4th point. Full runes up. Decides to move in with the Watchful Sentry onto the Rockfall Path, scoring his 5th point. Electing to keep the Kaiser Survivor safe into his base. GNCC then taps 4. And recycle from M1 power from Kaisa to play another Rocket, targeting the Stellacorn Herder in Hardik's base, contemplating countering it, counter spelling for it to be able to perhaps keep the draw for the next turn, but Hardik lets it go. GNCG now with a lot of rune up and a Watchful Sentry holding each point, feeling quite good with himself, feeling that he's in a very advantageous position here, as he definitely does not mind these one might Watchful Sentry dying. As they die, he draws a card with their death knell, and as we see, he draws a Progress Day. Progress Day, 6 cost 6, recycle 1, draw 4 cards, but in Kaisa there is no recycle cost at all. Being able to cast Progress Day for essentially no tax to your rune economy is very powerful. A Kaisa now in a commanding position at 6 points may choose to just cast Progress Day in order to keep her tempo, her card economy up. As just a double conquer, will be able to see her end the game. Hardik then plays down a sneaky deckhand, unable to play it into the same battlefield as the Aurelia, as Ruffle Path does not allow so. GNCGT using the Falling Star to target the sneaky deckhand twice, just removing any threat from Hardik's board. And now tapping 6, recycling 1 to play Progress Day, drawing 4 cards. Trying to look for answers to everything that Hardik may have. Still remaining on very high rune count, moving to 11 next turn. Still having a unit to hold, it likes to pass. GNTCG here looking like he's trying to just simply run Hardik out of units in order to stop him from being able to contest and prevent these small 1 might units from scoring. But Hardik moving back at the start of his turn, targeting Aurelia Fervent with a Discipline. buffing it by 2 might and 1 more from Aurelia. So Aurelia is now +4 on top of the 4. She is awakened, so she's on 8. And chooses to use Aurelia's ability to recycle 1 to awaken, untap this Aurelia Fervent. Moving it into the Vamos lair. Scoring to 5. Jinx TCG now gets the draw. Kira then recycles 1 rune and 6 to play the Draven onto this battlefield, hoping to be able to hold it and perhaps catch back up in points with the Draven's effect. GNCG now tapping a large number of runes, playing out the Watcher active, giving -3 to both the Draven and the Aurelia Fervent. Aurelia down to 1, Draven down to 3. Pushing in the Kaisa Survivor to the Ruffle path, scoring to 7 point, drawing a card. Moving the Fox Watcher into the Vamos lair. Reducing with a reduced might on both units. Now it was 7 on 3. So he then chooses to, in response, cast Defiant Dance for 1, recycle 1, giving the Draven +2. You give him the Watcher -1, so Draven's now up to 5. Watcher down to 5 as well. Sorry, -2, +2, -2. So Draven up to 5, Watcher down to 5. He decides to then on guard the Draven to make sure it kills. But then in reaction, GNCGG plays a Get Excited, discarding unchecked power in order to KO the Draven. And as Draven loses a combat, GNCGG then gains a point, going to 8, and therefore ending the game. GNCCG masterfully playing it, enabling the use of all his resources in order to play around Aurelia and her deflect cost, the rockets, and being able to out both Aurelia's GA, as well as contesting, not allowing Hardik to contest his units by constantly clearing the smaller units, which may not seem of any consequence at the back, allowed this Watchful Sentry to hold for multiple turns a row, allowing him to simply accrue resources, build up in runes, and be able to end the game with 1 simple push from 6. So yeah, round 2 goes to GNCCG with a 2-0 on Kaisa against a very difficult matchup. Yeah. Moving down to 2-0. Certainly in a comfortable position. Will not be gaining any bonus points as he is playing Kaisa in our Arcane League, but 2-0 is certainly a score that you can be happy with nonetheless. And with that is the end of game 2. And as the players pack up, we'll move to an intermission. Now's the time for you folks to go to the bathroom, go stretch some legs. We still do have 25 minutes left on this round, as this game ended in a very swift 2-0 to Kaisa. And we will be back with round 3 whenever it is ready. So catch you all there. Hello and welcome back to our final round of our locals. So we have Adrian on the left on Miracle Draven against GNTCG on the right, playing Kaisa. The players have begun their mulligan. GNTCG has selected Void Gate as his battlefield of choice for game 1. Adrian with Reaver's Row for game 2. Player gives their fist bump, and the game will begin. GNCCG looks like he will be starting. Tapping 2 for a Plundering Poro. Best 2-drop in the deck. Passing the turn. Adrian opening with 3 runes, drawing a card. Tapping 2. Tapping 1 first. Playing out a stacked deck. Looking at the top 3 cards of his deck. Picking 1, adding to his hand, and returning the other ones. He selected a card that I was unable to see. Random shuffle. Puts to the bottom of his deck. Tapping 2 runes. Playing out a merchant. Very good 2-drop as well. Passing the turn. GNCG now on 4 runes. With the active Plundering Poro. Moving into Reaver's Row. Maybe perhaps taking the action back. Nope. Entering Reaver's Row. Conquer goes through. Scoring 1 point on the move, creating a gold. Discarding 1, drawing 1. Still with 4 runes up. Playing out Kaisa Survivor, non-accelerated as he only has 4 runes. Passing, as you can see, GNCCG has pitched what looks like a Bellows Breath, which he deems not necessary for this matchup. And would rather see additional cards. GNCCG off with a very strong start. 1 gold created, Kaisa out, Plundering Poro on the Reaver's Row with a gold as well. Adrian here floats, plays a seal. Tapping 2. And the seal. Spinning Axe. Runs into Reaver's Row. Conquers. Goes to 1 point. Discard, draw. Reaver's Row, draw. Draven, draw off winning combat. Discarding, drawing off Reaver's Row. Tapping 1, playing a stacked deck, looking at the top 3 cards of his deck, finding a Nocturne, recycling 1, adding 1 of the other 2 cards to his hand. Playing out a Battering Ram. Adrian, deciding to pass the turn, has generated quite a lot of might on board already, with it just being his turn 2. GNCG now untaps with 6 runes. Could potentially threaten a singularity here, which might be back breaking. Adrian down to just 3 runes after a lot of aggressive recycling. And only down to 3 cards in hand. GNCCG conquers with Kaisa on the Void Gate. Kaisa on Conquer effect draws 1, going to 2 points. Chooses to deploy the Void Seeker onto the Merchant and stupefies. dealing 4 damage, reducing its might of the merchant down, losing no cards in hand both times. As the cards replace themselves, managing to clear the merchant as well as the axe on it. And passing, holding what seems to be 2 runes up. Adrian now going to 5 runes with a seal in play, with a Nocturne as well as a Battering Ram, 4 might and 5 might respectively. So the Battering Ram could enter the Void Gate going over the Kaisa, but G and CCG does represent 2 runes up. Could be Stupefy, could be Smokescreen, a lot of things that Adrian has to worry about. So may need to reconsider if he does look to engage into combat with the Kaisa. Alternatively, he could also choose to take the Reaver's Row, which would put him to 2, allowing him to filter more through his deck. Adrian taps 1 purple, floating 1, decides to cold shot, goes through. Looking at top 2. Finding a second Nocturne. Take your card. And also finding a scrap heap, which he could move a unit into the Reaver's Row to be able to go +1 with the discard of the scrap heap. He decides to push the Battering Ram into the Void Gate. GNCG responds with a Get Excited, discarding a Rocket, dealing 4, but with the Void Gate, it goes to 5, being able to push back the Battering Ram, denying Adrian the draw, but Adrian pushes the Nocturne into the Reaver's Row, discarding the Scrap Heap, drawing 2 cards, going +1, and now is still left with 5 runes up, as he is floating 2 with 3 active runes able to recycle. He then spends the 2 rested runes, fight or flighting the Nocturne back, recycles 1, floating 1, playing a seal, tapping the seal, what looks like could potentially be a Rasa from hand, and deploys all 3 of his Rasas 1 turn, going to 0 runes. Adrian has completely depleted himself of all runes, but has built a massive, massive board in this all-in. How can G and TCG respond? He returns with the Kaisa and goes with a Progress Day, drawing 4 cards, looking for potentially an answer. 3 point from holding, 2 up. Playing a Watchful Sentry, passing the turnover. Adrian now starting the turn with just 2 red runes. Tapping 2 purple runes, perhaps cold shotting. Cold shot, goes 2. Yeah, top 2. Taking a card. Top 2 again. Nocturne into Reaver's Row. Going up to 3 points, discarding Scrap Heap. Drawing 2 cards. Nocturne into Void Gate. Going to 4. Recycling 2, paying 2. Falling Star the Kaisa at the back. Going once again down to 0 runes. GNCCG here with quite the varied number of cards in hand could potentially have an answer. Both players on the very opposite spectrum right now. Adrian, all in, very aggressive on the board, going down to 0 runes both turns, trying to push the tempo of the game. While TCG is currently looking for an answer. A lot of cards in hand, high rune economy. But can he deal with this massive board that Adrian is currently representing? GNCCG is certainly taking his time, but he should look to make a game action soon. Tapping 8 runes, recycling 2, what looks like to be a Watcher. -3 global. First he pushes, no response. He has Adrian is tapped out. Pushing the Watchful Sentry in, 1 and 1 might trade. Pushing the Fox in, going to 4. Reverse row effect triggers. Discard 1, drawing 1. Rossas at the back, still all at -3. Falling Star clearing double Rasa. And GNCG has managed to clear most of Adrian's board during this turn, equalizing the point parity to 4. Adrian now very low in resources, with stuck at just 2 runes. And almost essentially just 3 cards in hand. Tapping 2, both his seals for what looks to be the last cold shot. Cold shot resolves, top 2. Rudren keeps what looks to be a spinning axe. Top 2 again. Pushing Rasa in. Spinning axe. Wins the combat. Draven draws. Reverse row triggers. Discard scrap heap, draw 2. Refilling his hand quite effectively, but still now going down to 1 rune. And hiding a card, recycling his absolute last rune. So Adrian, for the 3rd turn in a row, will be opening his next turn with just the 2 runes from the start of turn. If GNTCG manages to somehow clear this Rasa, Adrian will be down a card with almost no rune economy, and all the ways he is able to cheat out characters for cheap are currently gone. He's down double Nocturne and 2 Rasas, and if this Rasa is gone, I struggle to find a way on how Adrian would be able to rebuild his board and make the comeback. GNTCG plays out Garbage Grabber, recycling 3 cards back into his deck, and drawing 1. Costs another 3. Plays a Lecturing Yordle. Tapping 2, playing a Watchful Sentry. Passing turn. So GNCCG takes this off turn. Adrian does not win as he only holds to 6. Taking a slow turn, just developing the back in hopes that he will be able to clear Adrian's board on the following turn. Push his 2 smaller units in, go to 6, and then lock Adrian out from there. Adrian, just 2 runes. Will be quite difficult to develop a meaningful board. Both players looking at each other's discard. Thinking what he could potentially play for 2. Just the Merchant. And passing the turn. GNTCG here. Now on what seems to be 10 or 11 runes. Still a good grip of cards in his hands. And this is the turn where it would look like he would be able to regain the tempo from this game. Singularity in hand. Rethinking on what he would like to do with this turn with a large amount of cards available to him. Decides to deal 3 to the Rasa. Adrian reacts with a Fight or Flight, pushing this Raza back. So the Hextech Ray does not resolve as it only deals damage to a unit out of battlefield. GNTCG. 6 recycle 2. Singularity. Targeting both units. Rasa down 3 might. Now just has the might available to him from the Spinning Axe. GNCCG decides to Falling Star the Rasa, completely clearing Adrian's board. He himself losing a lot of runes this turn, but as he's built such a high rune economy, will still have runes to play with the next turn. Pushes both his units in, going to 6. Discarding 1, drawing 1. To filter his hand even further, and using the Garbage Grabber to recycle 3 cards back into his deck. Drawing an additional card, further fulfilling his resources and passing the turn. Adrian now with 4 runes. Thinking, is there a way for him to be able to perhaps stall this game? Taps 1. For a stack deck. Take your card. Still looking to play out this game somehow. Could potentially dig for a Falling Star to clear double units. It's tap 2 to Rebuke. GNTCG now hold, goes to 7, draws. Looking to stack a battlefield with a Forerunner. And a Watchful Sentry, pushing that battlefield now to 2 plus 6 plus 1, 9 might. Is there a way that Adrian is able to deal with 9 might at one battlefield with just 6 runes remaining? Not to mention that if this Forerunner gets taken down, GNCCG will end up with 2, 3 might mech tokens at the back ready to push in for the next turn as well, paired with all the removal he has in hand. And Adrian proceeds to scoop game 1. So it is currently 1-0 to TNTCG. After the first game, he was a bit behind, but was able to make a comeback, clearing Adrian's entire board over the course of across 2 turns. And looks like they are now sideboarding, ready to go into game 2. Both players thinking about what cards they could bring into the matchup. Adrian perhaps could have chosen not to commit as much, recycling extremely aggressively to get these Nocturnes and Rosters into play. It did give him quite the early tempo advantage, giving GNTC quite the scare. But at the end of the day, he wasn't able to continue the aggression with the lack of runes, being able to hold up counter spells, hard bargains. Fight or flight, rebukes on his opponent's turn, or simply play any units in order to take back some tempo after his current board got wiped, as he was stuck on 2 to 4 runes for the entire remaining of the game. So will he look to adapt for the second game, or will the same hyper-aggressive strategy be employed again by Adrian? Both players still finalizing their sideboard. With 35 minutes remaining, players might struggle to play out the full 3 games if it leads to there. So both players would be interested in looking at picking up the pace of play. Adrian opting to go with Candlelit Sanctum, which reads on Conquer. You may opt look at the top 2 cards of your deck, recycle, put them to the bottom in any order, or if you want to at all. And GNTCG decides to go with Val Mars Lair, looking to trap Adrian's unit on that battlefield if they were to go there, not letting them retreat back to the battlefield. Sorry, back to the base. And both players cutting each other's deck, and looks like game 2 will proceed shortly. GNTCG drawing up, mulliganing 2. Adrian assessing his hand as well. Looking to mulligan out too. Each player presenting the fist bump, and we will begin. Adrian on 2 runes, drawing 1. Does he have a 2-drop? He does have a 2-drop, looks like a merchant. Merchant, pass. GNTCG on 3 runes, tapping 2. Looks like a plundering Poro as well. Both players starting out with their ideal 2-drops and passing. GNTCG TCG holding 1 up. Potentially representing a Hextech raid to deny this filter from Adrian if he were to move in. Adrian decides to move with the Sanctum. GTG's giving a little bluff on the fact that he had the Ray, but does in fact not have it. Adrian now choosing the Sanctum's effect to get his top 2 cards. Adding a card to his hand for some reason. And cycling 1, putting 1 to the bottom. Going to 1 point. Tapping 4. Playing out his chosen champion Draven, which did not see play at all during the previous game. And passing. GNTCG has the rocket, targeting the Draven. Immediately removing the threat on the board. Stupefy onto the merchant. Reducing it to 1 might, moving his plundering Poro in. Winning the combat, generating a gold on Conquer, and then using the Candlelit Sanctum effect for itself. Very, very strong turn here, clearing both threats from Adrian while maintaining the Poro on his board and generating gold while not deramping at all due to Kaisa. And the turn is passed. Adrian now, once again, finding himself with no board, but this time with higher runes that he may want to keep up. He taps 1 for a stack deck, digging 3 cards deeper into his deck. Recycles 1. Finds Nocturne. A very, very strong find here. Immediately recovering some board presence. Recycles 1 and 2, floating 1. Playing a seal. Cycling 1. Playing up the seal. Cycling 1 and the seal for the cold shot. Adding 2 cards to his hand. Again, looking like he will employ the hyper-aggressive recycling. Both players figuring out the recycling order. Looking like he is indicating playing out a battering ram. Double battering ram. As he has played 3 and then 4 cards this turn. Once again sacrificing his runes to develop quite the board against GNTCG. Does he have an answer for these battering rams and the Nocturne? GNTCG retreats his Poro. Tapping 6 gold to play the Ferris Forerunner. Taking it slow, rebuilding his base. And just passing it over. Hey, Adrian's Rams have made it through this turn without seeing a falling star. as we do not know whether GNCCG has it or not, or he has chosen to develop his own board first, as he is indeed ahead in points. Adrian tapping 3 and the seal indicating an Ezreal. Discarding an Ezreal, drawing 2 more cards, leaving himself with 2 runes up. We'll now look to see if he would want to push his units in. JNCGG permits. Adrian goes to 2 points, opting the top 2. Keeping one on top, putting the other one to the bottom. Does he choose to push the other units into the Vamos lair? Doctor into Vamos lair, going to 3 points. Recycling 1 red to hide a card at the Candlelit Sanctum. Then proceeding to pass the turn. This game playing with slightly more runes overall. Immediately exhausting himself to turbo deploy these Rasas, which you may or may not have seen. First Forerunner runs into Vamos lair. GNCCG, no action. Adrian passing as well, no action. The Valmont lair is taken by the Forerunner. GNCCG going to 3 points. And he deploys a Falling Star onto this battering ram. Adrian reacts with an axe at reaction speed. The battering ram has 6 damage on it. But the axe gives it +3. So battering ram now with 2 might available. Well, is then the rocket then proceeds to take out the axe, reducing the might of the ram. Axe goes away. Battering ram might reduces, is taken out, and Adrian loses the fight or flight on the Candlelit Sanctum as well. GNCCG successfully clearing out that battlefield for this turn. 3 rune remaining, thinking on whether or not he should push the Plundering Paro into the battlefield. Deploys a Watchful Sentry first. Pushing the Paro here would allow him to opt to score a point and generate a gold, but he chooses to instead not. And just passes over. GNCCG quite low on cards, but as we can see in his hand is a progress day, which will enable him to refill his hand back up without the cost of any runes. So he's playing around that. Adrian. Then Candlelit Sanctum. Reveals a Nocturne once again. Getting to play it out for free due to the seal. 4 might for free on a battlefield is quite solid. He then pays 4. Cycling 1 red. Adrian still deliberating with 2 cards in his hand. He should look to make a game action very, very shortly. 3 cards in hand. Tapping 4. Recycling 1 red. Looks like to be a piercing light. Draw off Watchful Sentry. The repeat cost reduced from the Ezreal on board. And he passes the turn. GNTCG now, drawing for turn. Tapping 6 and Kaisa for Progress Day. Drawing 4 cards. 3 runes up, still remaining. Plays another Plundering Paro in base. And passing it over. Adrian now holds to 5. Getting 1 point ahead. But once again, I must emphasize that he is playing with a lot more runes this game, which enables him to have much more options than before. Being able to deploy the majority of his cards, unlike the previous game where he was just stuck on 2 and 4 runes. Enabling to even play his chosen champion, the Draven, at some point. With last game, with how GNTCG was able to clear his massive board, Adrian certainly does not feel entirely comfortable in this position either. Retreating his Ram. Tapping 2. Playing out a Merchant. Tapping 4. Playing out another Ram. Pushing the Nocturne in to the Candlelit Sanctum. Choosing to have a slightly weaker unit to hold the battlefield. Passing the turn right here. GNTCG untaps with 11 runes. And if there is a Watcher here, it could be back-breaking for Adrian. Watcher into Bellows Breath here would be absolutely devastating. Holding to 5.
My name is Viktor, so you can find to play Viktor. And I opened the legend at the champions. Both champions.
GNTCG tapping 5, bringing out the Kai'Sa. Recycling 1. Stupefy on the Nocturne, reducing its might by 1. Drawing a card, allowing the Kai'Sa to now push into the Candlelit Sanctum. Taking out the Nocturne, pushing himself to 6 points. Candlelit Sanctum triggers first. Deciding on whether or not he wants to keep any of these cards on the top or the bottom. She needs to send both of them down. Digging for a better option. And now drawing off the Kai'Sa Conquer effect. Finding a Watcher. Great decision from GNTCG here. Choosing to cycle further and further through his deck to find an answer. He definitely found one here with the Watcher. Now GNTCG is pressuring match into Adrian if both these units were to hold. And Adrian must push in order to take control of these battlefields. But on the clapback, GNTCG does find the Watcher. What can Adrian do? Does he have any outs? Even if he were to clear both battlefields, it would cost him at least a unit or two into this Forerunner. And if he does not hold and allow GNCCG to conquer both, he will lose. So there's no other option than to push split his units and push them into both the battlefields, hoping to hold them. But GNCCG with the Watcher on the back and double Bellows Breath will be able to completely wipe out all of Adrian's units. The game may already be over, but Adrian doesn't know it. Pushes 2 battering rams onto the Candlelit Sanctum against the Kai'Sa. 10 might on 4. Kai'Sa goes down. Adrian, conquer, goes to 6 points. Candlelit Sanctum triggers. Opting 2. Indicating a Nocturne here. Putting out the Nocturne onto that battlefield. Adrian trying his best to take back these 2 battlefields. Tapping 2, recycling 1. Bushwhack. His units enter ready this turn. Playing out a Rasa for free. Well, not essentially free, but tapping 1 skill to do it. We'll be able to trade out the Forerunner. Looking to send his units into the Vamos lair. 8 might 2-6. Or Merchant triggers. Discarding Falling Star, drawing 1. GNCCG tapping 1 for Bell's Breath. Dealing 1 damage to each. Heated. They trade out. 2 mechs are spawned. Ezreal pushed in, going to 7 points. GNTCG passes, untapping all his runes. Going to 12 runes. Has many, many options to deal with this. Has both the unchecked power and the Fox and Bellows Breath. Just needs to conquer. And the Fox comes down, and that is game. GNTCG takes it 2-0 against Adrian on Draven. Kai'Sa showing her prowess. Still a force to be reckoned with in set 2 Spirit Forge, taking down the boogeyman of the format. Draven 2, 0. Players discussing each other after the game. But yeah, that is it for us today. If you're watching from home, thank you very much for joining us on the stream today. If you're interested, we are Spellbound Games. You can find us at spellboundgames.co.uk for your Riftbound product needs. Riftbound will be available in store. We have both Spirit Forge and Origins available for sale at below RRP. So if you are interested for some product, come down. We do have a cabinet of singles as well, both rares, commons, uncommons, epic, a few overnumbered here and there as well. Community is great. If you want to play the game, meet some new people, trade, sell, buy cards, definitely check us out. And yeah, once again, we are running this Arcane themed league for the next couple of weeks. The winner score, the person who scored the most points in the league will receive a sealed Arcane set. Very cool pricing up for grabs. Do come down and check us out. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, please drop us a like, subscribe for more live streamed locals, TCG content all around across multitude of games. And yeah, that is it from us for today. Final round of locals is now moving to an end. And hopefully I will see you next time on the stream, and even better in person. Come say hi to us if you found us, and come to our locals from the stream. We'd love to say hi, have a chat, and yeah, meet all of you guys at home. Again, thank you very much for watching our stream today, and we will see you later.